Yeah,
in there.
it's in here, yes, okay. So,
Essentially, he just wants to wait till the spring,
Yeah.
if you want me to sum for you.
yep, that would be great. I've gone through the budget, but,
Because he just sent it out today. Essentially, he's saying that because of snow days and teacher contracts and all of that, we should wait until the springtime to make a decision about the last day of school. Because we do count minutes, so therefore, if we have a snow day, we're able to count the minutes that we're gaining by making it not so long into the summer. Please, you may want to speak up.
Yeah, I think the other piece to that is that that's the minimal instructional time, is the 180 days of instruction or the 945 hours. And so our thought process is that, one of the things that we did when we looked at the current schedule was to maximize instructional time. And so if we start to cut back on that, then we've kind of gone in the opposite direction of what we're trying to accomplish in that particular case. The other piece is that the school day, kids would be there at 7:30. The difference now is that rather than being in the gym until 8 o'clock, they're now heading off to advisory at 7:45. So it really hasn't changed the day.
it's not
if you will.
necessarily instructional time.
Exactly. I mean, according to the state, advisory is considered instructional time, other than sitting at quote-unquote recess or waiting for the gym. So that piece, along with the fact that we don't know what this winter will bring, we would like you to hold off until such a time when we can make a better decision.
Do you want to go or me?
So I'm not happy that this came out 3 hours before we had to sit down, because I didn't have time to look at it, and I don't know what it really says, and I'm not comfortable with making a decision on it now.
Okay.
I'm also not sure when you say springtime, what that means, because that could be April, May. The other difference is the very beginning that I read here, that it says that the student arrival time has not changed. It has, because if you arrive past that time, you're tardy. Whereas before, that wasn't the case. 8:05 was tardy.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. You
No,
done?
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I have some questions about what Tim has written in this, because I am reading differently in the RSAs regarding the school year and the school day. I calculated and I worked out for middle school, because they have a limiting factor of their lunch recess period is 40 minutes. That gets taken out of their day. Also, I calculated it would be about 24 minutes of the day if 3 minutes is allowed for transition between classes of 8 transitions. So based on this time of the day, from 7:45 until 2:50, it's 7.8 hours is the time that the students are there. If we subtract the lunch recess period and the transition times, that equals 6 hours of instruction time. The RSA allows advisory periods in middle and high school to count as instructional time. And elementary schools can count up to 30 minutes of recess as instructional time, K through 6th grade. So yes, lunchtime, homeroom periods, passing time, and breaks are not counted towards instructional time, but advisory periods are counted. And if you look on Power School for middle school, 7:45 to 8:10 is considered an advisory period. So that is counted as instructional time. So if we use a 6-hour full day for middle school times 178 days on our calendar, we're reaching 1,068 hours of instruction. So we are going beyond our 990 minimum. If we account for the 990 hours minimum, and we're also adding in 60 hours for inclement weather, staff development, parent-teacher conferences, at least 30 of those 60 hours shall be available for inclement weather. So we are building in already 5 days of weather into that 60 hours. So that gives us 1,050 hours to meet our requirement. So we're already over our requirement by 3 days. We should be getting out 3 days sooner. And I think the sooner that we can come to a decision on this, not waiting till May to say when the last day of school is, would be great, because I don't ever want to go back to school again before Labor Day if we're not gonna be getting out early. This is ridiculous, because we are putting in the maximum allowable instructional time for elementary and middle school. The instructional time is either at or equal to 6 hours of middle school. We are doing a maximum instructional day, and there should be some consolation for that. So,
having been in the union for years, I'm gonna tell you that's the complication. So you have a contract with the teachers that say the instructional days are 180 days, am I correct?
Correct.
So we have to figure out if we're gonna eliminate those days, what does that look like for them? We'd have to open up negotiations again, or,
but we only have 178 days on our calendar right now.
For the teacher.
And we had no trouble counting hours when it came down to high school graduation in the spring.
But it's
So,
different. Well, clearly this is a hotbed issue. It is different for teacher contracts than it is for student hours.
yeah, that's
I do
unfortunate.
think that there are some valid points, but I also am really reluctant to make a decision in October before we've had any inclement weather. Weather, personally, I
I
understand.
think she's saying that's built in
it's,
already.
we've already have 5 days built in, and our old calendar from several years ago used to have those 5 days blocked out on the school calendar, so you could see, like, okay, if we don't have any school or snow days, then this is our last day of school. If we have snow days, boop, 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 there are 5 extended days to show, okay, we're accounting for these now. So we have so much time built in.
So our scores should go way up. I feel like we should be arguing about that.
I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, it just doesn't seem right. We should be shaving off a couple days. Since we started earlier, we agreed to the calendar before we came to the understanding that our instructional time for the day has grown.
Right, with the starting early time, is there any pushback from teachers and staff that now have to be there earlier and start earlier?
I don't think they
So-
have to, Eric. I
What's
think
that?
they get there at the same time.
The
And they
the
were-
contractual hour
they were
hasn't
up for
changed.
it.
Yeah.
They still arrive at 7:30. That's
Yeah.
the contract.
So the complication would really be the teacher's contract.
Yeah, I think we
and all
need to
that.
talk to the union before we
Yeah.
make a decision.
Right.
We could come back to it next meeting after talking to the union, but I think we need to
Open.
make sure that the that the union is on board with that, and knowing they probably would have to add some professional development days.
Well, they're currently contracted for 180 days plus 5 additional professional development days. So 2 of those are at the beginning of the school year and the other 3 are throughout. So any days that we knock off potentially, if it's significant, then we would have to look at what we would do with those days so they could
Right,
fulfill their
exactly.
contract.
Yeah, and I do want to, like, with delayed openings and early release too, I did want to say in the ruling that if the school's open for at least 3.5 hours, then the day can be credited to the number of hours.
Oh, yeah,
So,
definitely.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, that's why we
you
do
know.
early release.
right.
Yeah.
So,
And the
I
start
think it
before
just
schools,
really
before
need to look
Labor
at
Day
this.
had
Yeah.
to do with the open house piece, because parents wanted the open house the day before school started. So that's why we tried to figure out a way to do that, because if you start the Tuesday after Labor Day, you can't have open house on Labor Day. So you'd have to have it that night, I guess, but that's what parents asked for the year before, remember? They wanted the open house the night before school started.
Well, the year before, the teachers didn't want to do open house before school started. They wanted to wait until school started to do an open house, and that was what they wanted.
Right.
The parents wanted open house.
So we gave what the parents wanted this year by having that day the night before, but otherwise you can't start school until Wednesday after Labor Day, which maybe you do next year when you do your calendar. Look at that.
Maybe get some input from the parents of what they would prefer.
You see, so you start school on the Wednesday after Labor Day and have the open house the night before, then some of your hours are cut back anyway, but I just wanted to say that piece, because that's why we made that decision.
We also made that decision before we knew the school day was increasing.
Right,
which
absolutely.
I think maybe had we known that, that would have maybe changed.
It might have made a big difference,
Yeah.
right, in our decision. I absolutely agree with you. I think discipline-wise, I think it's been a good choice to have the kids go to their room instead of in the gym, is what I'm hearing. Fewer discipline problems.
But to Ann's point, that's not increasing our scores. having that additional time.
Well, it's advisory time, they could build in some tutoring time, I suppose.
Well,
Maybe
keep in
so.
mind, we're just starting. This is this is.
Right, I mean, this is, I feel like this is the first year that it's been done. And I think it was done out of a place of trying to put the student needs first. And I feel like that's kind of, all of a sudden, that's become, okay, well then we should get out early. And I'm all for getting out early. I mean, I'm a teacher, I love to get out early. But I also wanna make sure that we take all of the other moving pieces into,
Yeah, we definitely have to talk to the teachers' union. I don't think we can do this tonight without talking to the union first,
So
because it does involve the contract.
I think it's an informational item that we're aware of, and we will put on the
Put
agenda.
on the agenda for the next
For the
meeting.
next
I don't
meeting.
think we're meeting in November, are we?
No.
So December's
December.
meeting.
Hold that
Okay.
thought about not meeting in November.
No, it's fine, I just don't want this to go under the table.
No, I get
literally,
it.
Figuratively, wherever.
But I don't know if you want, do you want to talk to the union
Yep.
and figure it out and come back to us?
And let us,
Yep.
let me know. what
We'll get that
to do.
started, yep.
Thank you. Does that work for you too, Lauren? Is that okay?
Yeah, so we don't meet in November, we meet in December,
Right.
and then we don't meet in January, or February is before the deliberative, and then elections in March.
No, we
So like,
definitely
I don't
can-
wanna wait until springtime, because
I-
you're gonna have new board.
We're probably gonna have to meet in November for budget stuff, so we'll talk a little bit more about that.
We were going every other meeting if
Right.
we could, but if we can't, we can't.
Right,
You know.
we're flexible.
And this issue, I mean, we're bringing this up, but this issue is being brought up to us by a lot of parents.
Okay.
And they're asking, and so I just, we are passionate to deliver the message to them about the reasons
I think
and
it's a very
decisions.
appropriate question, absolutely. But again, with the contract issues, we have to talk to the union first. So if you're okay to wait, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I
going
wasn't gonna
to-
make a decision today, but definitely wanna get all the moving
Moving
parts
pieces,
nailed
right.
down and.
And I understand
I
the
mean-
point of not making it in May, you know, that's a valid point.
It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be, oh, it's the minimum numbers when we clearly are gonna be hitting them. Like, that's not the reason why we're not doing anything. It's because of the contract for the teachers. That's, okay, fine.
And then
But-
we'll have information about that next time. Matt's gonna explain that.
And if when we negotiated the contracts, the school day hadn't changed then either, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
negotiations team. What was that, 2 years ago? Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
yeah. It's, yeah. I can't remember when I negotiated, because I did this one here too.
I've
So,
been through
yeah.
these.
So yes, we didn't have that extended day at that time when we negotiated, so we didn't know about it. But you can do a sidebar. You don't have to wait until the next round. You can open up negotiations, do a sidebar agreement, or even an MOU, okay? So that's doable. Unions are very open.
Because I'm just curious how the teachers feel too, having had their contracts negotiated. Not that they weren't already supposed to be in the building by 7:30, but now things have changed a little bit while they're in the building now for this time, and what they're, I don't know how they feel.
Sure. I haven't talked to them, but.
Keep in mind, the schedule that was developed by the leadership team. So it was all teacher-directed and input there. So none of the collective bargaining agreement pieces of their contract has changed as a result of that schedule. So everything falls within that.
Okay,
Alrighty.
Thank you.
moving on, action item, out-of-state field trip, 11/7/24 to Boston, and I know we had it was for the, Boston Symphony Hall.
I think that's cool. I make a motion, we give permission for the out-of-state field trip on 11/7/24 to Boston.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Looks great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. The next one is policy JBAB. It looks like, the current policy is now, it's a conflict with, recent law.
parts of it is, not.
Parts
So,
of
yeah, parts
not
of
the
it,
whole.
yep, parts of it.
I mean, I was all for just deleting those parts. I guess Tim has protocols for staff. Do those get issued to the staff at the beginning of the year?
That's a part of the overall, beginning of the year processes. They go through the minimum requirements or the mandatory requirements, and part of that is also taking a look at policies, procedures, so.
Okay.
Yep,
Because that would be important to refresh their memories about it.
yep,
I just don't want anyone to have any discrimination against them.
correct.
That's all.
Correct. And the New Hampshire School Board Association no longer recommends policy JBAB or includes it on its website.
That is correct.
Okay?
Chrissy did some research, though.
Yeah, I did some research about this weekend, and, yeah, we don't have to have this policy because we do have the procedures, and I agree with what Tim's saying about that. The only question I had was, are these procedures cleared with our lawyer in terms of just protecting us from discrimination?
I do not know the answer to that. I would assume that, but let me find that out for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And then also, there's a new House Bill 1312 that was just passed, or approved in July. It's effective, September 17th, and that was about parental notification of changes in student mental well-being. And one of that is that the school district, it prohibits personnel from answering questions from a parent about his or her student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, sexuality, or change in related services or monitoring. But that it does not prohibit a school district from adopting procedures that permit school personnel to withhold such information from a parent if a reasonably prudent person would believe that disclosure would result in abuse, abandonment, or neglect pursuant to the RSA. So that's not in our procedure, and that needs to get updated because it's not up to date with that recent House bill that just got signed by Governor Sununu. So I want to be able to, if we have the case of a transgender student, that they be protected under, if there's, reasonable doubt that there's
Well,
abuse
they
or
should be-
abandonment.
The parents should be reported to DCIF
Correct.
in that case.
Yeah, and it's not listed in our procedure that the school district has to answer to the parent now. Like, that was never the case. And that, I would think would be in the guidelines for that
Absolutely, yep.
procedure.
Yep.
So, I'm
So-
comfortable with rescinding the
JBAB.
current policy
We'll have that-
pending those
We'll get that
things,
update
like,
for the November meeting.
Is the
Yep.
lawyer good with protecting the school district for discrimination? Like, does our procedure cover us? Does it read properly? And,
Protect the kids.
yeah, and then the latest HB 1312, we need some updated information, I believe,
So would it be
in our
best
procedure.
would it be best to rescind that tonight and then do that in November? Because it sounds like we're having a November meeting. Or,
I think so.
yeah, or do we wait on the rescinding of the policy? I just want to make sure that we're covered and that we're also not.
Yeah, because we may also have to add in a new policy. This new House bill requires school districts to adopt a policy on parental notification of changes. So that should be something that needs to be added in and voted on as well.
So maybe we should wait on the decision until we get.
Well, under Title IX, all students, including the language from JBAB is included with that piece of it. So they're still, under any type of discrimination or things of that nature, they're covered under Title IX.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
But our procedure does cover this policy. They're basically the same.
Okay.
yeah.
So if we rescind the policy tonight, which I don't have a problem with doing, because we already have all this information
Well, we have
somewhere
Title
else.
IX to-
Right, between
But I just want to make sure that that procedure is up to date before we kill
So
everything.
that would be a new policy or an updated policy.
Updated procedure.
Procedure, so,
Procedure,
yes,
sorry.
yep. So the procedure we'll bring to you at the next board meeting. It doesn't need to be voted on because it is a procedure.
but
But
maybe
we
if
also
it's-
have Title IX involved in that piece.
And will you
So I think we
covers.
should
I think
rescind
Chrissy's asking if
the
you run it by the lawyer.
policy.
Well, I'll double check with
Okay.
our lawyer to make sure that they've seen that, or they're the ones who recommended that, so.
Okay.
So let's rescind the policy and update the procedure next month.
All right, so I make a motion, we rescind the policy with the understanding that we will have procedures brought to us at our next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we have first reading of policy EEBA, school-owned vehicles.
And this is because of the new van that we have.
Yes, as you know, we bought a van.
Because it's the first, it's a brand new policy, you can waive the second, reading and adoption, you can do it all tonight.
Perfect. I don't see any reason why not.
Is
So,
this the same as the one we have for Prospect?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
so I would propose then, if somebody wants to make a motion, that we waive the second reading and adopt policy EEBA, sorry,
So
excuse me.
moved. So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who was the second?
I moved it.
So
She
he's
said it all,
I-
I didn't
yeah.
wanna repeat her, you know, I figured I'd just let her go for it.
No problem, no.
Okay, and personnel, it looks like we have a couple of actions needed here.
Retirement,
Yep.
Anyone?
okay. I make a motion, we accept the retirement of Jackie Leathers, Title I reading teacher. And the hiring of Deborah Dalton, preschool teacher, and those are the only ones we need to take action on.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with regrets and a welcome.
We will miss her very much.
Yeah, with regrets and a welcome, all at the same time. Okay, so now I believe we are at the budget. We've already kind of discussed future agenda items, correct? As far as we know that we want to talk about the procedure and then the end of school year
End of
with
school year,
the, with the
yep.
union feedback and how that's
Yep.
gonna work.
So you'll bring that to November.
I will.
That would be great, thank you. That would be sooner than later.
What's the, is that the ninth, the 18th?
Yes, 18.
So if we want to talk about that now.
Yep.
So the next JMA board meeting is on the 19th. In talking with Heidi this morning in regard to the budget, it may make sense to meet after the JMA to finalize Alton's budget, once we know the numbers from the JMA.
Okay,
Plus, it'll also give Heidi the opportunity to get the numbers from Primex and our health insurance increases and things of that nature. So it should be a complete, or as complete as we can get
What is
it.
Thanksgiving this year?
it's the week after.
28th,
Yeah.
Thursday, that following Thursday.
We had thought about maybe even right after the JMA, but there'll probably be a finance committee meeting that day. There'll probably be B and G. So there's a lot going on that date,
Sports banquet
on the 19th,
On 20th,
on the 20th.
on the 20th, okay.
and the town budget committee.
So the town meets on the 20th?
Yeah.
So when are we meeting here? I mean, what,
You know, hang around.
totally confused
after
now.
Prospect's done. I don't know what's on the agenda.
I have a conflict that night, which is fine, but I have,
On the 20th?
on the 20th?
on the, not on the 20th,
On the
on the
19th.
19th, yeah.
That's
You're
our
saying
JM.
Right after Prospect's JMA board meeting, we stay here.
Right, if that's easier for everybody. It's just, I need to get those, the
The
final,
JMA is on the 19th,
Right.
right?
you
Yeah.
know, number.
So you just need a vote that night from
Right.
us. So
So-
it would be,
Be
make
one item.
sense to stay, yeah, but
Yeah,
then
it's
we
just the
still need
budget.
a night for.
But I
a
need
board
it
meeting.
before December because of the budget committee.
Oh, it would be more than one item, yeah.
I'm fine staying after JMA meeting and doing it then.
We do need to meet in November, so you're saying no to the 19th?
I can't.
Okay. So when can you?
I mean, it depends on what like she said, what the agenda looks like, but if I can't be here until 10, 11 o'clock at night.
No.
Well,
sorry.
last time we-
We'll have the, budget and then obviously the
'Cause I have
procedure
buildings and
piece.
grounds first, and then the JMA, and then we have
Well, we
that,
have
and I could
finance
be
that
here all
night
night.
too.
Yep.
You're in the
Yes.
same boat, because we have, you and I are on the finance committee.
Yeah.
Can we go the following week on the 25th?
No,
No?
I
Evidently
mean,
no.
I can't, that's,
Or what about later in that week, like the
21st?
21st?
The
Thursday,
21st, the Thursday work?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do that.
would that work for you? What time? Like, do you wanna do early, like at 4?
4.
I prefer 6, but,
Okay, well,
Well, we could do our normal time at 5:30. That's early enough, huh? Can you
Is
get
that
there by
okay?
5:30?
Is 5:30 okay?
so 5:30
Okay,
on
can
the
everyone do
21st.
5:30?
Yep.
On the 21st?
And we can do it at ACS.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't we? I
Yep.
would
Sure.
assume we can.
So Thursday,
Yep.
the 21st.
5:30 at ACS.
Okay.
Adding it in. There we go. Of course, I put it on my own calendar, not the family, but they don't care.
Okay, so at this point, I think we're on to the budget, yeah?
We are.
Okay,
So how would you like to work it? Do you want to have Heidi do a quick overview, and then Janice could give you an update as to how she came
I
about?
would be very comfortable with
Okay.
that. I don't know how everyone else feels, but that works for me.
Overview for health insurance and dental, well, health insurance, and dental, we don't have the rates yet. We won't
Okay.
have those until November. So what I've put in is a 10% increase and a 4% for dental. So 10 for health and 4 for dental. New Hampshire retirement, there was a slight decrease, nothing to woo about, but at least it didn't go up. And then again, Primex, right now, it's just the current rates in the budget. We should have the new rates later this week. Some of the other movements from functions in this budget, software was a big piece. They were scattered throughout different lines. And so to align like we have the other districts, we decided to move it all into the technology function. So you'll see technology software really high, but then you'll see that zeros throughout the other software lines throughout the other functions. Furniture, a lot of the furniture that's being purchased is very small, $100, $300 items. They're not really capital, which is what we have a furniture line. They're more of a supply. So you'll see a lot of the furniture lines zeroed out. That's because we moved them into the supply line this year. The other thing that I had to do was move guidance. There was a 0.5. She was 0.5 phys ed and 0.5 guidance. So I had to move the 0.5 and 1100 function into the guidance function. So you'll see an increase in guidance for that reason. And then the big thing, I created a function for OT this year. They should have always had their own function. So that function is 2160, which means I moved that position from function 1200 into 2160. So you'll see a fluctuate there for salaries. 1200 going down, whereas 2160 taken over. The other big thing too is special education high school paras. This is a big change. So at the high school, they've changed over the past year. They're all shared. There's no one-to-one paras here at the high school. So it's very difficult for, in the past, we used to have the one-one. So if you had an Alton student, we had a para attached to the Alton student, that would be in Alton's budget. But we're not doing that anymore, so what this year we're going to do is take all of the para professionals at the high school and make them shared into the Prospect Mountain budget, which means a huge increase in Prospect Mountain's budget. You'll see probably a good 500,000 or more possibly. But it's going to trickle down into the school districts based on ADM in your assessment. So I'm trying to explain here, your budget actually, it's not in here. So it's kind of taken away about 200,000 from your budget here because of that change.
So there are no IEPs with 101 Paris? None at all?
They don't do that here. That's what I've been told through special ed. Yeah.
Pam?
That's
There aren't
fascinating.
any, there aren't any in Alton. We've tried to do shared para for most of the students based on their need, and we try to fade it to be quite.
So parents have agreed to this, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's a big change, and I just want
That's
you
a
guys
huge
to be
change.
aware, because when you see Prospect's budget, it's gonna be way higher, but again, it's gonna funnel into the districts based on the ADM. And food service, I did add, and this is up to you, if you want to or not, food service transfer. And the reason why I did that, remember we talked about the food service loss every year. Food service has a loss, usually lately it's been about 80,000. And the general fund needs to cover that. Usually you have enough in surplus, depending on the year, especially with special ed popping up of unknowns, to cover that loss. We also have another part where it's student debt. Student debt has been extremely high the past couple of years here at Alton. It was 30,000, not last year, but the year before, and another 30,000 this year, or last year. This year, we're already seeing, I mean, it's, right now, it's $6,000 that we're looking to try to collect from families, and it's October 21st. We're doing our due diligence. We're gonna reach out and do as best we can to try to collect that money. But that's another part where the general fund needs to cover the losses. Otherwise, we carry this receivable, and eventually, we're just gonna end up having to write it off, meaning the general fund's gonna have to pay for it. So to alleviate that, I did add $100,000. That's up to you, your discretion. You can change that number, you can zero it out. It's basically adding to your budget to collect from tax money so that we can pay those debts off.
What is our food contract? Like, who do we have it with? Is it like a multi-year? Like, why are we paying so much for the food? Only, I asked because I asked for a quote from food services and they said that, like, their costs were more expensive than what they could get at Hannaford. And I was like, why, like, who do we have a contract with for the food?
We are part of the New Hampshire Buying Group, which they go out to bid for us, and we usually contract, one of them wins. I believe it's Performance Food that we have currently. And then, I mean, we use the same vendors. HP Hood is for our milk. Trying to think of others. We also do the surplus food, from the state. So I guess I'm not really sure where you're getting your information, or.
Well, just curious, like, is this New Hampshire Buying Group getting our best
Yeah, they go out
price?
to bid.
Or-
That's what they do. On behalf of us, they go out to bid, and do all of that work. So we don't have to, so we get the lowest. And it's for the whole state. It's not just for,
Do you see those bids?
do I know? No.
I think there's some glitches with the programming last year as to who paid and who didn't pay. Parents were saying on Facebook, sorry about Facebook, but it's true. They're saying I paid, and yet they're saying I didn't pay, and there were a lot of glitches with the program. So,
Last year there wasn't, though. We went to a new program, and it was pretty clean. We
Okay.
came out, we zeroed out everybody, went to the new program, started fresh, and I mean, I can show the we were showing the parents.
okay,
We were sending out notices and showing them, here's your purchases, this is what the student
Okay, good.
purchased, and, we feel pretty confident now that
Okay.
it's been fine.
Well, I would like to keep the line in there and the amount in there, because I would like to support feeding students and covering any costs that we can.
Mhm.
But
I'm all for it, I'm fine. I had a question about textbooks. I don't know if we're through with the lunch program or not.
Okay, so are the other three of you fine, and you're not saying anything, or what is, can we get a general consensus here?
Well, I don't think my school box works properly. As a parent who uses it every day, I can tell you that it doesn't. I don't, have the utmost confidence that it's being used properly, but that's my experience.
So if you wanna call me and we can have a talk about it and see why, I'd
I'm
love
just
to have
thinking that if this is, for me, an inconsistency in how a family is billed for the amount, I would imagine it's happening. Like, I wonder how accurate it is, and the numbers that we see, is that really it? But going back to Christy's point, like, I'm also curious to see what it is that, because if now all of a sudden from last year, where we voted on $3.25, we voted on a lunch price, and then our numbers went up extremely high for the food this year. I don't know that I'm like, I don't know if I trust what we're being told, I guess. Not you guys, but like the bids and the money that, it's being said that this is what it costs. We're not raising our prices enough to cover it, and I don't know we ever will if we don't see what the other companies are charging.
I can show you.
I mean,
I
just.
don't know where you're getting your
like,
information
from
bills.
from the school, we were quoted a 3 pans of mac and cheese for a dance in the spring, and it was $90, and then this year it's like $160 that it's increased for pasta and fake cheese powder.
Are you talking about catering costs? So you're having our food service department cater, is that what you're?
Yeah, but that's coming from their food costs.
That's different, but that is different than what we do with the food service.
But it's,
The supplies that we're getting.
I don't know,
I'm just
I just saw an
concerned, like-
advertisement for 10 people for Thanksgiving for like $500, so I mean, food is
But I'll make you mac and
crazy
cheese for
expensive.
$160.
Okay.
Ask me. I'm fine. That sounds like
I
a
just-
lucrative business.
I know food costs are going up. It's just, are we getting the best price? Because, yeah, people are having to pay more for their lunches now, and if the food prices have gone up that much, it's a losing battle.
But what is
I mean,
but what is the answer?
people aren't
So
paying
is the answer
their-
to not fund this?
No.
No.
I just don't want to keep dumping money into something that we can't, fix. Is this the best option, or is it, hey, Cisco, want to enter a 2-year agreement with us, and what kind of price can you give us for
I don't
500
know. I don't
pounds
know
of
how it ties
pasta?
into the
And
federal-
what are, I don't know.
Well, like, the person that's doing all of our bidding for us, are they making money off of us to do that?
Well, they
We
should
pay
be.
them $100.
So, I mean, these are things that I think about, like, I wonder what we could, I don't know, it just seems like maybe we could do more work for it to see if we are getting the best price.
Sure.
So are you asking Heidi to?
No, I'm just
Right, so
talking
what
out
is
loud.
the-
I'm
where-
not-
Well, so
where
if
are
you
we-
think about the food consortium, is what Heidi's talking about. I mean, they're bidding on the entire state of New Hampshire for that piece of it. So the cost is gonna be, that we're gonna get a better bang for our buck through that. We also use, I just lost what it was, but, I'll come back to me. But, so we can ask
We can't
Sam,
read his mind.
it'll come around. We can ask Sam to kind of go out and try to figure out if he's buying this from that consortium, or look at Cisco or some other company,
There are
to
other
see.
companies, right.
But I think we're gonna find out that that's the best piece of it. Food costs are going up, cost of labor, things of that nature, and for $3.25, that's still a really good deal for a lunch, or whatever the cost for the breakfast is as well. So I think you're seeing, a lot of schools are running into this piece of it. I think the other part of this is that, where we, and Heidi talked about this today, is the individuals who would qualify for free and reduced. Our numbers are down, and that not only affects that piece of it, but it also affects our federal funding. So having, when we talk to the parents about it, again, we can't make them sign up for it, but if they qualify for it, it would certainly help us on both accounts. It helps us for the food and it helps us for the federal funding, so,
It's a pride thing, they don't.
I understand that, and, you know, and it's hard to get somebody to say, you know, I need this help.
Right,
But in the same vein, you know, we gotta keep pushing that to say, if you need some support, we're here to help you out. And I think that will come from Sam or Janice and Jacqueline, who have better relationships with those families to say, you know, how can we
And
help
no
you
one
out?
knows that they're getting free or
Right,
reduced lunch.
right.
That's the
So-
piece I don't think they understand, parents, as well.
Yep.
They need to understand, no one knows if their
Right.
kid's getting a free lunch. Everyone's on an equal plane in that cafeteria.
And do we have a demographic on like who isn't paying their lunch? Like, are these the people that could be getting free
I don't.
lunch or?
That's something we have to research, like you
Okay.
said, we're gonna start reaching out to the principal
Okay.
and the
Yeah.
assistant principal for assistance. We just started the year.
Yeah.
We're just seeing the pattern. And I know we just have a sheet right now that Sam's looking at first, so see what his opinion is, and we're writing back and forth, you know, what do you know about this family? And then we'll reach out, the next step will be to the principal and maybe they, or even the social worker, to see if they know any, you know.
But we're
Okay,
not
yeah.
denying kids food, right?
No.
We're not denying children their food.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's the main
thank you.
thing.
And it's my own ignorance. I don't know anything about the food program. It's just from what I've been seeing and hearing and now on the school board, it's like, I just want more information to understand these numbers better and making sure that, yeah, we're getting the value that we need and, you know, if we, yeah, I'm okay with putting the 100,000 into it, but it just feels like a stopgap and it's like, what do we need to do to at least slow the bleed?
And we're gonna work real hard this year to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
So that's
Do-
my.
We don't need a vote on that.
Okay, no, I don't think so.
I just had a question about textbooks,
textbooks?
so,
Do you, oh, sorry, do you wanna let Janice jump in and then?
sure. Go ahead, jump away.
Before I start, I would like to thank our office manager, Jen Diachenko, for the hours that she put into helping create this. Her prior 2 years at ACS and knowledge of the budget were incredibly helpful in allowing me to make well-thought-out decisions with regards to this year's budget. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thanks,
We
Jen.
appreciate it.
What I did this year was sit down with Jen and go through all of the requests that teachers made, then looked at the prior budgets for 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25, and looked at the amounts that were budgeted, the actual amounts that were used, and then created an average as to what was actually being spent versus what was budgeted. Those are the amounts that you'll see reflected in this budget this year. There were a lot of what you would call wants over needs, if you will, and I put a lot of careful thought into what provides the students with the best educational practice possible. So those are the things that were given priority versus the Pinterest-worthy things that maybe didn't provide the students with the best instructional practice.
Do we give teachers out-of-pocket expenses, like $200 if they want to spend on outside of our school vendors? Do we do that in Alton?
How's it been done, Jen?
They all had $250 additional to their budget.
Okay, that's what that's helpful for a
Yeah.
teacher.
Good.
So, you ready for my question?
I'm ready for this.
So, we've obviously been using Lucy Calkins. Are they doing the program this year?
Most teachers are using it with Fidelity this year. As you know, we have a literacy committee that's been formed, and that's going to be starting to meet next week to look at whether or not that is the best program for us to continue using moving forward.
Don't we have a meeting this week?
This week.
Oh, it's this week, thank
When,
you.
please?
I was
only
like, wait a
Monday.
minute.
Dave?
It's okay, it's
Oh,
okay,
I'm not.
Dennis, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
No, you're right, thank you for correcting me.
But the reason I'm asking is because if we decide not to use Lucy Calkins, and we decide to use another program, that would impact the budget. That's what I'm asking you about. Have you
I think
considered
Matt
that?
has the answer for that.
Yeah, so you know, depending on what the committee comes back with, we certainly wouldn't be able to implement a new program moving into next year. One of the things that's been a concern is the idea of the science of reading.
Right.
However, we could start to put some things into play for next year around that part of it, but
program.
without the program.
Okay.
And then that would give us next year to kind of look at and see which program we feel is going to be the best suited for us.
Okay,
So.
I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
if we were doing the budget, if we needed to put money in there for whatever you decided to do, part of the literacy committee.
Good question.
Is the, ski bus included in the budget for the, underneath the general supplies for drama, music, ski, and
I
gardening?
saw something about ski here.
Yes.
Doesn't, I'm on page 17.
Transportation.
I know that we had said as a board that we would cover the school's transportation for the skiing, and I just wanna make sure that it is in here.
It's not. I was not aware of that.
Okay.
It just says general supplies for drama, music, ski, garden, et cetera. Thought
For
I saw-
transportation, that would fall under transportation field trips anyways.
Oh, okay.
And what,
You're talking about bus transportation? Yeah.
Yeah, last year we talked about that.
So
Right.
currently, it's not in there,
Yeah.
so.
So can we add that?
Yep.
I think it's 4 trips to Gunstock and back,
With 2 buses.
with 2 buses.
That's what they used last year. Originally, it was only 1, but it didn't work out that way.
Oh, okay.
So how much do you think that would be? I'm just curious, how much are the buses to Gunstock?
I want to say it was around $400 a trip, but
Okay.
don't quote me on that, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, say $400 or
Yeah.
$500 is.
That's not bad.
Per
so about
bus,
2,000?
or
400 per bus,
Per bus.
morning, night, so that's 800 a day.
I can get.
times
I
2
can get you a
buses
firm
we
number.
need?
So it'd be
that's-
$1,600.
Double.
Times 4 trips.
$1,600 per ski day, so 4 times that.
We can get a quote.
I'll get you a quote.
Yeah.
Okay,
So do we wanna provisionally,
I think we should approve of that.
provisionally, you know,
Yep.
Most schools do provide the transportation
Mhm.
to Gunstock. I was surprised the kids were paying for it. So, I agree.
do we need a vote on that? Or just a?
No, we'll
an
bring it
agreement?
back, yeah.
Okay. Let's see everybody nodding their head.
Thanks for bringing that up, Lori. Special education, do we have a lot of out of district or not?
Yeah, there were a lot of services too, I noticed that.
Yeah, so special education, we have, added services under professional services. You'll, see Joan Reese. Joan Reese has been doing, tutoring for a homebound student. Also, under Sunbelt, we have a paraprofessional and our speech assistant through them. And then, we include $6,000 for our school psychologist, as part of the White Birch budget, because most of that comes out of the IDEA grant.
Is the Sunbelt, the paraprofessional and the speech path in person?
They are.
I think at the high school they do it remotely, don't they?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
At school,
Good.
we have
That's good,
in-person
'cause last year it was
speech
remote.
That's good, yeah.
Yep,
Remote's
you.
difficult for the special needs kids.
I'm sorry.
Remote is difficult for
Yes,
special
it is.
It
education
really is.
children.
Mhm.
Just look at COVID. It was awful.
And then if you notice, the out-of-district line, it's just one student. We have another student that's you'll see an increase in the high school level, because there's another student that's gonna be at the high school next year.
Okay. So any other questions or concerns or things to point out with the budget? I think overall, it was up, what, 2.2%? Is that correct?
2.14.
2.14.
2.14, thank you.
Yep.
But that doesn't include the share. That's gonna go over to Prospect. We're gonna end up with a higher budget there.
I did increase, so this is the assessment, what I do is I flat fund it, whatever it is this year is in there, but I did add 200,000, trying to make it,
Okay.
so it was.
So we
Okay, so it won't be a huge
So it
jump.
won't be like, oh my
Well, we
God.
won't be dying then, okay.
Right, and the ski bus should not be a.
That's not a huge amount,
That's not
no.
huge. That's
Doesn't
not.
impact it.
Okay, so,
Warrant articles?
yeah,
You don't
do
have.
we need to,
Nope, so what I'll do is, at the next meeting, we'll make sure that the, transportation cost for the ski bus program will be in there.
okay,
And then, obviously, Heidi will update, based off of insurance and dental,
And the Prospect Mountain
and the
assessment.
Prospect Mountain assessment, yep.
And at some point, I don't know if the food director would come and talk to us about it.
right, that, I was thinking that too, that maybe just to
I
have the
don't know
food
him, I've
director
never
here
met
to
him.
sort of explain, you know, how,
Yeah, I think that might be worthy of a visit.
yeah,
Maybe not November, but
maybe like December or January or something like that,
I
or,
just think it would be important to hear from him about his purchases and, you
right?
know.
We'll shoot for December, and that way, that'll give us a time frame of, or an idea of how we're doing based off of.
Right, and give them,
Yep.
that person time to,
Yep.
you know, be prepared. We're not asking for we're not trying to play gotcha, or we're just trying to support.
Any,
Yeah,
any
exactly.
specifics, any
That's-
specifics you're
yeah.
looking for, other than just food costs and stuff like that?
I think just a general breakdown of how it all works and sort of some trends that
Right.
they notice and,
And maybe you could
You know,
speak to the program that parents
pros,
use.
cons, or things that might be helpful, or any suggestions. You know, just some feedback, some explanation and feedback of how to
And how,
support.
yeah, like how it works to make sense of it all.
Okay.
Yeah, and whether this budget's gonna be enough for 'em.
And I
Well, and is that a 100,000
I mean, are we-
effective,
we're
right?
gonna
Is that
go
gonna be an
That's what I'm saying,
effective?
is-
deeper in the
is
hole.
What we're doing effective,
I mean-
you know, like we raise the lunch, I just wanna make sure we're raising it and it's effective, it's.
And if
you
it's
know,
not effective, why not?
Right.
What would need to be done to make it effective? Is it so far out of reach that it's not effective, or is it, oh, it's pretty close, but it's not quite enough, you know, right?
Yeah, and us losing, I mean, we're already 6,000 in the
Well-
hole, like, okay,
I wonder too, when a student goes up to get lunch, because the student wants to, what their friend has, and they haven't had a My School Bucks account opened in their name because their parents sent them with a lunch. But that lunch duty, person gives them a lunch and they ring it up.
You have
And
to.
that parent might not have any idea that they have a
They do now.
balance.
They do
Okay.
now.
All right,
This-
well,
Like I
think-
said, this year, we started off, we're emailing as soon as they become negative. We did have to wipe out last year's balances, and now the program will send them out automatically. So you'll probably get bombarded, whoever's in the negative, with notices. And then we're gonna mail notices out to families. We're gonna try to follow the policy as best we can. It's very strict, so.
I would also encourage, if parents feel like there is something incorrect with My School Bucks, to,
Please let me know
Contact,
what you
right?
feel,
And
because
there's
I
no-
don't know what you
There's
feel
no
that is
history
doing
past
wrong.
30 days either, so you can't even see.
transition from the end
Yeah,
of
the
school year
transaction.
to the beginning of school year is difficult. I know you've had some money disappear, like you
Yeah.
had in a, you know, you had money there and then it wasn't there at the beginning of the
So
school
you may
year.
not see it, because again, we have to clear everything out for the new school year.
So
But
when
it
does that
doesn't
get
mean
bet-
it's not there. You're not starting with a zero balance. We're carrying those
I
over
think-
during our year-end process.
Does
Well,
that,
then also.
but have you had a zero start at the beginning of the school year?
Well, I didn't notice because I didn't check, because I was making lunches and my kids decided that one day they wanted orange chicken and I didn't know that. But I can only imagine that once I saw that, then I'm imagining that, like, now I know that you're sending them home, but a lot of new students, like the little kids, you know, the middle schoolers have been there a while. The little ones, Andrew goes up and buys lunch and didn't have a My School Bucks account associated or set up in that student's name, and that could be where a lot of money was sitting.
They'll be notified, even if they don't have a My School Bucks. because we have it in Mosaic. That's what we go by with the negative balances, and that's what we use for, that's where the letter comes from, is from our actual lunch POS system, not my school box.
Is there a separate program for the high school? Do they just
It's all the
pay up
same.
front? It's all the same?
Well, we use the same POS and.
So the families get, if they have a high school kid and an
Yes.
elementary, they
My
get a
school
They're
notice?
separate. They have
Yeah.
to open up two accounts.
They have
one
to
with
open
the
up
pri-
two
But it's
accounts.
still my
Right,
school
and one
box.
with the elementary school.
I was just curious,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're not linked, no.
Is there some program that they're supposed to be linked though? Because,
I don't know, I will just say, and this was a few years ago, but money goes quickly on my school bucks. Money goes quickly for school lunches. School lunches are not inexpensive, and it also, you know, when they get a drink or when they get
well,
a
it's
breakfast.
à la carte at high school
It's,
level.
it's a lot,
Heard a
and
lot
I
about
mean,
that.
it's just, yeah, I understand it.
And it's hard, you can't deny a child.
Correct.
So if that child comes up, you know, the people behind the register don't know that that child might have brought a lunch, and they see their friends going up, so they're gonna go, and unfortunately, Sam or, you know, the
Yeah, they're not gonna
coworkers
say
Right,
don't
they
know
can't.
that, and
They
they
shouldn't
cannot
have to, they
deny
shouldn't
No.
have
that-
to check on
that
that.
student
That's
a
not their
lunch.
job.
Right, or
Correct.
breakfast, so.
Right, and if the student's getting breakfast and lunch and a drink,
Adds
it
up.
adds up
Ask
quickly.
Does
me,
add
I have
up, yeah.
I have a grandson.
So are they getting an alternative, are they getting like a sandwich instead of the entree?
No, they have to have a reimbursable meal, breakfast and lunch, before any a la carte will be served, if that's the case. But again, I'm not there every day, so I'm not sure, like, if somebody comes up to just do cold milk, I'm not sure how that works. So that's a good question for Sam.
Oh, just like if they start to ring them up and it's like a negative balance or something, do they just get a sandwich instead of the full cost entree?
No, we're not supposed to serve them,
Can't
a la
discriminate.
carte
Anything
if they're
different?
negative.
There's a lot of,
But again, now we have to go into that, what's the family situation, we need to figure that out
Okay.
before we, you know, shut them off. And that's what we're working on right now.
What do they have when they go up to get their lunch? Do they have like an ID number they tell?
They punch in their number.
Or they can look it up.
tell them, yeah, yep.
Like for the littles, they
The
can
littles have a
look up
card.
the,
They do have a card? Oh.
okay. Lots of questions, lots of wondering how it all works. Warrant articles,
Right now, it's just the boiler, right? Are we just doing the boiler this year? Miss Budget Committee member?
we haven't gotten there yet.
I know, usually the school's the last to go.
I think that's what we talked about at the previous, I don't know, 2 months ago or whatever, yeah.
All right. We don't have to approve this, do we?
Nope.
no, okay.
Looks
Nope.
fine to
If
me.
We've
there's anything
talked
else that
about-
jumps out, let us know. And
We've talked about, future agenda items, we've set our meeting date for the 21st, which is a Thursday at 5:30.
Does that work for you, Eric? Okay. Do we have to go into non-public tonight?
Yes,
We do, okay. In that case, I'm getting a piece of pizza while these people leave.
sounds good. Somebody wanna make a motion to go into non-public?
I make a motion, we go into non-public, sorry. Lauren.
Second.
RSA 91A 3 II A and C personnel. Gotcha.
Roll call?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Oh, that's my. Who does the contract for the photography, like the school pictures, or like who sets up the like clicks or whatever?
I believe Penny Moran has been the one that has scheduled it. I don't know how that company has been chosen.
Okay.
I certainly didn't have any input this year. It was whoever they had used last year, and it was already set up.
I had.
Check to see if there's a contract. If
Yeah.
we were to ask for
Right.
3-year contracts,
Okay. So I had one parent that asked like if we couldn't do the same company for all